Hello and welcome to another Monday night episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. Tonight we have the distinct pleasure of having Miss Kim Wright on the show. Kim has her own business called Wright Strategies, and since 2005, Kim Wright has provided senior public affairs counsel to national and international clients across multiple industries. Kim has engaged in public affairs campaigns across Canada and all over three orders of government, leveraging her deep knowledge of politics and public affairs. She founded Kim Wright Strategies in 2018. Kim is best known as a municipal affairs expert. However, her expertise is not limited to one level of government. She has been involved in politics of the federal, provincial, and municipal levels since 1990. And Kim is a frequent media commentator on political issues. And tonight, Kim is here to talk about broken crayons still color, working through grief and trauma to live your life. And the best part about it is I've known Kim since public school. It's weird. I don't think we'd never really kept touch except for on Facebook. And I've watched her career and I'm like, I had no idea she was in politics. And then here she is. And I thought, what better way? Since here in Canada, we're close to another election. And, giving her the platform to talk about herself a little bit and her story is incredible. So with that, Kim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. This is great. And look, it's great to catch up with old friends. This is the beautiful part about Facebook. There are some terrible parts, but the beautiful part is being able to reconnect with people you haven't seen in real life in years and really just, bond and reconnect and understand each other's stories. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Absolutely. And well, public school was a couple years ago.
A day or two.
Yes. And if my stepson's watching this in the front room, he'll come in running in here and saying she's a dinosaur. But anyways, that's why he's playing his game. So I know, Kim, talk a little bit about, your overcoming story. I know it's beautiful. And some of what you shared with me, is, well, I'll let you say it and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, there are days my life is like a soap opera, but I go back to a few years ago to 2015, and it was a bit of a rough spell. I went through being at a restaurant one evening with my then husband and a friend, and watching gunmen come in and shoot up the place. So some trauma that certainly came with that, and it was very difficult to sort of overcome. How do you get through that grief, that fear, that, oh my God, can that happen again? Especially when 2 years later, that same restaurant got shot up again. So
don't eat there anymore.
No, great steakhouse, but really not worth the floor show, shall we say. Yeah. So lots of stuff that came through that. And then sort of as I was dealing with that, then my mom got sick again, and she had cancer before, and it returned with a vengeance. She ended up with a very aggressive head and neck cancer, to which, unfortunately, it took her from us. And that was May of 16. And by December of 16, my husband decided to walk out the door, rare to be seen from again, which was 6 days before my first Christmas without my mother, and 3 days before our wedding anniversary. So a lot. Then my father was very ill. I had a number of strokes. And for those who are watching who have ever met my father, he was incredibly vital, incredibly entertaining, very good Irish guy, great storyteller. But he got sick and had multiple strokes, which was incredibly difficult to watch. A man who had the gift of gab, like he was born on a Blarney Stone, to not be able to communicate as he would have wanted to. So he passed away. So you sort of, you look at all of those things, changed companies, and then decided, I don't want to work for other people at the moment. Let me just go out on my own and do this. And I'd been in this job, in this work environment for 15 years at that point, and decided all right, let's go for this. Why not? But through all of the hardship, you learn about yourself. You certainly, in my case, read a ton of self-help and amazing coaching books, and really saw what hit. And there was this phrase that hit me so hard, and it was that broken crayons still color. And anyone I know who is going through hard times, losing a parent, illness themselves, divorce, just the upheaval of changing jobs and changing careers, or even starting a company, it's hard. It's hard times. But no matter how broken I felt and how on the floor at times I was, this concept that no matter how broken my crayons, I could still color something. And it's one of those moments. And so here I am a few years later and have my own company, and people will see me and my office on TV once in a while, talking about politics and public affairs and why it matters and how to help people. And that's always where I came from, a place of.
Well, we have another classmate on here tonight, Kelly. Welcome, also, Kelly.
So many awesome people. Kelly is one of those people who went out and did some amazing things, but she also just recently lost her extraordinary grandmother. And, it's a small town that we all grew up in. And,
yes,
her grandmother was friends with my parents. And Dorothy, your parents worked with my mom. So, it's always interesting how the interconnectivity all works. But right. And we're here now, and we're awesome.
That's right. Kelly's giving you love here.
Love.
And that's right. And actually, Kim didn't even realize that my parents worked with her mom. And I can remember when your mom passed away, I saw it on Facebook. That's where usually you find everything, people.
Everything.
And I called my parents and I'm like, Mom, Donna passed away. And I can remember exactly where you guys lived. It was not too far from where we lived. And my parents were like quite shocked. And I'm like, I had no idea she was sick. So, and now my dad's got cancer, and we're in a battle again. So, I'm sorry that you had to go through that with your parents. And it is traumatic when you see your parents go through, they're vibrant and, full of life. And like you said, like with your dad, and then all of a sudden it's to see them go downhill is like devastating. So I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And it is difficult.
It absolutely is difficult, but I will always know how incredibly blessed I was to be able to hold the hands of both of my parents as they passed away. Not everyone gets that opportunity. Not everyone has those last moments. It's hard decisions. There's no question. There's grief of, there's the questions of, did I make the right decisions? Do I make the right choices? Was making that medical end of life decision the right one? And you question it, even afterwards, when it was the right thing. But I had very blessed moments in that I could hold the hands of both of my parents as they left this earth. And it for many people, they don't have that opportunity. Certainly during COVID, they haven't had those opportunities to love on their family and make them feel at least as comfortable as they can. But it's those moments that, in those moments of darkness and those moments of trauma, that you see the best and worst out of people. And so, yeah, it's a hard time. And I will also say it's weird in that my mom had heart problems before she got cancer problems. I've dealt with more doctors than any normal person should. You feel like you should get degrees or at least, guide patches that says you've survived these various things and you've learned these various things. And you always wonder, why am I having to go through this? Why is my family having to go through these various things? And what I've kind of come to the realization of is that so I could help other people, either as they're going through it, or they don't know what questions to ask a doctor. And, you will know from your own experience, you'll learn a lot of questions of what to ask doctors and when to grab them by the collar and say, okay, get over here and explain this to me a lot more. So empowering that for my friends and my family, I think has been amazing.
You've hit so many nails on the head. And as a daughter as well, that has gone through every medical procedure known to man, pretty much. My mom had double bypass surgery. My dad had a stroke at 30. My dad had kidney failure, renal failure, was on dialysis. Only one in the world that Dr. Kadri knows of that got off dialysis without a kidney transplant. And now we're on cancer for 2 times. So you're right. So when something comes up, and they're diabetics on top of all that, and so when something comes up, I learned to ask the questions like you said, so that you can help other people with that. My husband says, well, you're not a doctor. I said, I may not have the MD behind my name, but I've been through so much that I know what to look for. And I would say 9 times out of 10, I'm right. And then he gets mad. And he says, his doctor will say something and he goes, well, my wife said that. And I'm like, you should listen to your wife. And like you said, I always say that our tests are our testimony. And without us opening our mouths, we are all connected to people and in our lives. And if we don't open our mouths and share our truths and share our stories, you're not going to ever help those people. And we're put here on this earth to help those people. And we are put through these tests to help and to get the word out and to bring awareness to certain things. And I'm sure, I will almost bet 90% of when you were going through your darkest moments, you felt either alone or, maybe scared in sometimes. And, you know what that's like. So you want to help other people bring through that. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely. You have these moments of, first of all, feeling alone, even in a crowded room, feeling alone.
Yep.
That, you're having all of these emotions, and, people with siblings, your siblings will experience it differently than you will.
Yep.
Your friends, your family will all sort of experience it differently. But you have these moments, and what I will always say to people is, your job in those moments when you have a loved one that's ill is to help be their advocate on their behalf. They can't remember what their temperature was or what medications. You were supposed to ask those questions on their behalf. Help, have a book next to them so you can write in all those things, because sometimes somebody messes something up. My mom, we joked that her last name should have been Murphy, as in Murphy's Law, because everything that could go wrong with every medication or treatment or what have you ended up going wrong. And it would be like, okay, so what is the worst case scenario here? What is this, like, in the off chance, in that, like, we all watch TV and we see those prescription commercials. It's like, and somebody will have blah, 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 like all these terrible things that happen. My mom was that person. So it was one of those things where you start to ask those questions so you can then help guide the treatment and be their advocate on their behalf. But it's hard, and you have those dark moments where you ask yourself so many questions. Going through a divorce, why am I not worthy? Why am I not worthy of love? Even the hard conversations I had with my parents at one point, which was, do I ever just get to be your daughter? And they're like, no, because you have these other hats and responsibilities. So I couldn't just be their daughter and fall apart in the way that I really wanted to.
I get you. I get you.
and then in the aftermath, and I'm sure so many of your viewers have those moments. I remember vividly after Mom passed away and setting up Dad with CCAC and all the challenges of that. But I had this moment in time of being numb about all of the grief, all of the trauma, all of the things that I had just gone through. And then the numb stopped. And I remember saying, man, I miss numb. Numb was a nice place. And you have to figure out how to get through those times when you really want to figure out how to be numb, whether that's with, drinking or gallivanting or, just head down and reading a million different books. But ultimately you have to come out of that numb and find a path that works for you. Mm-hmm. And to what your next part is supposed to be. Not easy to do, to be sure. Yeah. Everyone's got their favorite phrases. Like I said, mine is broken crayons still color. I still had work to do. I still had, clients who were depending on me. I still had family who I wanted to love on. A marriage I was trying to save. But all of those things come out the other side. And, here I am a few years, it's been 5 years since mom and 3 years since dad. And I look around at my life and went, holy crap, this is pretty amazing. And I'm in a unique position to be sure of the things I get to say and do. But you make some of your own luck, and some of it is, divine intervention and some variations. Right. But I have some friends and family and people that I have leaned on and loved on and started to learn who I am and what I care about. You and I were talking beforehand. Everyone in my family thought I was a terrible cook. Every person I dated thought I was a terrible cook. Turns out I can actually cook. No one gave me the space or grace to do it. And so my partner, Chris, has a phrase that I love, which is, it's the worst that happens. We order pizza? Okay. So turns out I can cook. So hopefully people will take that and go, maybe I can cook too. Just read the recipes. They're not that hard.
That's right. And I love that. Like, you never know what you're good at unless you try it, and just think all that money you spent on takeout, you could have just been cooking. Love that.
Turns out pork tenderloin is one of the easiest things in the world to make. And I've used more spices during this pandemic than I've ever used in my life. I think we've all had that spice rack that sat on our counter for years. I was like, oh, these actually go together. All right, let's play with this. Play. That's the biggest thing to come out of all of the around that.
Right. We have my friend Jenny Gould from Denver.
Hey, Jenny,
Jenny is amazing. She has her own business called Jenny's Gold Standard. So amazing person. She too, she knows with all the medical problems. Jenny has Lyme disease. So she's an advocate for Lyme disease. And, it's truly bad that you have to advocate for yourself. And yes, you're in a great position with your knowledge, Kim.
Also, anybody with a good last name, I always applaud them when they take a good pun. Look, I got called, Kim left, Kim right, Kim wrong, any variation of my last name. Although my brother likes to say it's not just a snappy last name, but I decided to take my last name and make a strategy company out of it. So embrace the puns.
Everybody will remember that, though, yeah. Right? Wright Strategies. You pick the right person and you get the strategies. Well, there you go. I love what you said about community. Community is the people around you are what got you through those moments, right? And I applaud you for getting yourself out of those moments, because sometimes it's really hard. Like, you could let yourself go down a rabbit hole and forever. And I made a confession this morning. I did a live down by the riverfront, and I made a confession that last week I pretty much given up hope on everything. Like the pandemic, my dad, work, my businesses that I had going, the plans that I had for my show. I shit stacked just to the point where I was energetically done.
Yep.
And then I had my community of women around me, and I have amazing women around me that started, well, what about this? What about this? Let's change the scenario or the narrative of the situation and, start stacking it right instead of shit stacking. And it worked. Within 2 days, I was back to myself. Now I'm still tired because I also, with everything that goes on, I'm a firm believer in self-care. But when you're taking care of your sick dad and you're in and out of the hospital for 2 weeks, and you're trying to be there for your mother, and you're a power of attorney for your grandmother, and you still have to take care of work, and you still have to take care of your husband, the last person to take care of is you. And I allowed myself to get where I was, like burnt out to a crisp. And so that's why this week I'm on vacation. And this week it's going to be fun. We're going to the beach for a couple days. And what are some of the things that you do or have done when you are in those moments where the shit stacked high, you feel alone, but you know you need to get yourself out of that?
Yeah, look, I think we all have those moments of going, holy crap, I don't know how to get up. I don't know how to get out of bed. I don't want to get out of bed. It's all too overwhelming. Fuck it. I'm done. I'm out. I'm gonna go, sit on a beach someplace, drink some margaritas, and to hell with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I have that all the time. I think we all do. It's trying to find those things that, okay, what if I just do this? Or what if I, sometime, and this has also been some of the hard parts of the pandemic. I used to go to the gym and do aqua fitness. And that was for like a good 2 solid years, every Saturday and Sunday morning, everyone knew that I was in the pool. I was mermaiding it up in the pool. That was my self-care. That was for my moments. Then the pandemic hit and all the pools closed down and that outlet wasn't there. So then it's like, well, I'm going to just eat some Doritos or whatever. Really easy to do.
Uh-huh.
and then it stacks and then there's but I'm up against a deadline and holy crap, I missed the deadline and everyone's going to hate me. And I went through this shame spiral even as part of my divorce of, we had a lot of shared friends and some more shared than others. And so it was like, okay, so where, are these people going to choose sides? We've all been in relationships and sometimes people choose sides.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't tell anybody that I was even going through this hell. I didn't tell anybody that my husband had walked out. I didn't talk about it except for a very small circle of friends because I didn't want them to be mad at me or mad at him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wish I had a magic wand. I have a stuffed animal that my partner gave me at Christmas time. It's an otter. It's an emotional support otter, we call it. Sometimes I just cuddle with Ollie.
Right.
I don't, there's not one good answer. Sometimes it's just move your body, dance it out, shake your body. People who follow me on any of my social pages will see that every once in a while. I'll have coffee on our balcony or we'll go for a walk or I'll just be like, all right, you got to dance it out. 20 minutes, move your body, punching bag, go for a walk, dance party, whatever it happens to be. Strut walk on that treadmill. That's my favorite thing. I look stupid on it. I don't care. I strut walk.
You should never care what other people think.
Sure, 100%. You shouldn't, but we all do, and that's why I put makeup on today.
You look gorgeous.
Thank you, darling. But it really is what works for you. Not everybody, their jam isn't all aqua fitness, but that was mine. I
love that, by the way. I absolutely love that. Water is my jam, and I have been so depressed because everything's closed, but thank God that my stepson's mom got a pool this summer, so I've been over there a couple nights.
And it's been so darn hot.
I know.
But, I mean, look, you'll often find me down at the waterfront here. I live in Toronto, so you'll either find me at the waterfront. There's a beautiful place here called the Music Garden. It's right on the waterfront. It was designed by Yo-Yo Ma. It's this twirly, swirly gardens that has this big, giant gazebo that every once in a while they play music in. Mm-hmm. It is the most beautiful place, and it's my happy spot.
I love
it. Look, I'm not gonna lie. There are times I just retail therapy and go online and buy a pretty new dress or whatever. Hope to heck it fits. But there's lots of fun but also watching other people's stories, like what inspires them, what motivates them. A couple weeks back, my favorite event of the year, the Queen's Plate, which is basically the Canadian version of the Kentucky Derby for those who aren't into horse racing, but like the hats. So every year I get a new hat. This year I got a group of fabulous women together And it was people that I, haven't had a chance to see very much in real life, obviously, for various reasons, but who I think are just really cool, chill, amazing people who would cut a person if they had to, right? Like they'd cut a bitch and help you bury the body. So I decided to bring these women together, and none of them had ever been to the Queen's Play before. Most of them I hadn't really like spent much time with other than the cocktail party circuit, but they were the most rad people. And you like just put yourself out there a little bit and say, hey, do you want to go do this? Do you want to go for a walk on the waterfront trail? Do you want to go for a walk over here? I'm going to go sit my butt down on the beach. Do you want to come? Like, and if they don't, that's cool. Take a selfie of you're doing awesome things, and people will gravitate towards that, or they won't.
And I saw your post about I'll call it the Kentucky Derby. I forget what the Canadian version is. I saw that and I'm like, you look like you were having so much fun. And okay, so Kim is also the Queen of Mess, and I don't think I've seen Kim with a regular mask at all. Her collection of mess is truly fabulous, and she even has the matching Toronto Blue Jays, I believe, mask as well to go with her jersey. I remember seeing that. So,
yep.
Even though I don't
for all occasions.
I don't talk to people daily, but I look through the feed on what's going on. I keep in touch with my peeps.
Look, they're the best accessory you can have these days. I have ones that, again, my obsession with otters. I have one that's an otter on it. So when I'm talking, this otter is like moving its hands. It's the most adorable thing in the world.
Oh my gosh.
I've got ones with sequins on them, ones that are just plain, ones with like golf balls and tees on them from when I'm out playing golf. I've got friends who make them, but I also decided to make a choice early on in the pandemic, once sort of the supply chain sorted out, that I wanted to get them from Toronto or Canadian or like local suppliers. Yeah. A couple from some of my favorite fashion designers, but predominantly all of them were Canadian, Toronto made masks. And so I thought, look, if I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, I want to support local small businesses, awesome entrepreneurs who are just trying to survive this. And so I end up having a lot of masks, finding a lot of cool masks, some that worked better than others, some that had a little straw peephole so I could, drink from. But just have fun with it. It's like everything else in fashion. Have a little fun, support some pretty cool local designers, and what's the worst that happens? You spent $5 on a mask or $10 on a mask. You don't like it? Buy something else.
Exactly. Our friend Kelly had said that to get her out of her funk, it's dancing and make silly TikToks.
I watch a lot of silly TikToks. I am not coordinated. Anybody who has ever seen me dance or dance it out, my TikTok skills are a little limited, but I am always overwhelmed and overjoyed by some of the TikTok posts. Also, there's a dog called Tatum the Pitbull on TikTok. Tatum is my favorite. When we're scrolling through TikTok and I hear Tatum voice, I'm like, ooh, Tatum's on. I get very excited over silly things, but.
Well, that's good. And that's what keeps you young. We have our friend Tim from Pennsylvania joining us, and our friend from Jen from Wisconsin. So I just love, thanks for joining us, peeps. I just love that, and we're all in this together. So why not make some kind of joy out of it? And Kim is a fashion diva. I am not. I should have.
That is not true. You are such a everyone's got their favorite fashion. I don't care if it's your favorite sweatsuits, your favorite cardigan, your favorite earrings. Everyone's got a little bit of something in them. And so I have fun with fashion because it amuses me greatly. And I hate, I'm about to take up curling and I can't find a pretty pair of curling golf shoes or curling shoes. So the woman, Jennifer, I think it was from Wisconsin, if you got a hookup, hook me up. But seriously, they make really fugly curling shoes and it makes me crazy. I found a pair of golf shoes. FootJoy makes ones where you can actually like create your own, like all the different component pieces. So they're just fun and pretty. And you know, I may be a Southern diva at heart because I feel like everything in my life has to be monogrammed on some level. So, but again, those are the things that are just fun and interesting. And you never know when somebody's going to be like, hey, I'm kind of bored of this, or I'm looking for a new pair of golf shoes, or I'm looking for a new whatever for my friends. Like I got a birthday coming up or something. And I'd be like, hey, have you looked at this site? And they're like, oh, okay, this is great. And you find really cool things and you share really cool things and have fun with it. Life's too short to just be boring.
Exactly. I should have found my pearls. My aunt gave me a set of pearls when I got married. And okay, hopefully she's not watching this show, but I've not worn them yet. Oh, wait, I wore them once to work and I felt so overrated. I'm in my own cubicle and no one sees me. But I'm going to have to start wearing them more because apparently pearls are prestigious and, you know, they look very nice. So I should have.
I don't care if they're, you know, really expensive ones or faux ones. Have a good time. Again, have a good time with any of this. Like, you know, we all know that most of us are like, okay, here's my behind the scenes. These are my slippers. They have sparkles on them. So like we all just wear goofy things and whatever makes us have a little bit of joy.
Okay, so Kim, I'm on the mission. I love that you did that. I'm on the mission. Okay, so you know Converse shoes?
Yes.
Have you ever seen the Converse shoes with the diamonds on them? Like that, like the studded?
Yeah.
I need a pair size 10. Where can I find those?
Start Googling that stuff. Like pretty much everything you can find as a Google search. And whether it's how do I get captions on my reels on Instagram? How do I cook anything? How do I find something? Start with the internet. And if you can't find it on the Googles, you know, start to crowdsource. Ask people. Do exactly what you just did. I'm looking for this. You know that tonight I'm going to be like, do. But so this is, like I said, have a little fun with all of this. Also, Keds make some really cute sneakers that they've got ones with all sorts of sparkles on them, like sneakers that are so. For those of you who in the before times and in the after times can't wear high heel shoes or don't want to wear them to events, go to the Keds website. You can wear sparkly shoes and they're comfy. So
I love that.
I show up at events because I used to wear high heel peep toes and I can't anymore because I wrecked my feet wearing them. Now they're art pieces. But so I had to start looking for like who has cute shoes and how does that work? And I get it. There's some people out there like, oh, shoes. But you know what? If your feet aren't happy, you ain't happy. So
exactly. If you just stuff those piggies into a blanket that is so hard that you can't even breathe, forget it.
Yes.
You're not going to have fun no matter what. That I totally agree with that.
And so you have fun with all of this because look, life can be pretty serious. Life can change on us pretty seriously and pretty dramatically, as we've all experienced in the last 18 months. I'm certain that you didn't think 2 Septembers ago that you would be home with your stepson in homeschool.
Nope.
You didn't. I didn't.
By the way, that is a nightmare from hell.
I can only imagine. I don't have children. I have lots of nieces and honorary nieces and nephews and friends who I adore. Who I think some people have had some new opinions of their own children and always thought their children was the angel and the parent and the teacher was the problem. Maybe there's some changes, but also like. I don't know how people do it, first of all, having to have all those extra computers. Most places, there's still a lot of places that don't have stable internet connections or they're really expensive internet connections. So it's hard. And everybody has been in their space now for 18 months and in their same space with the same people. And there's no I'm going to run off on a business trip because there's been no running off to a business trip, or I'm going to go play baseball, or I'm going to go play golf, because none of that has been a thing. So it has been a hard time for everyone. it's important to remind yourself, like, my doctor said to me, because I put on it all, the people who are watching who have been through a divorce, you lose your divorce weight, and I've put it on post-COVID. But she was like, look, your body got you through a pandemic. Let's, again, give yourself some grace, give yourself some space.
Exactly.
And find the waterfront, find your jam. Find your running path, your walking path. You don't have to kill yourself running an Ironman, but you should move your body however you are able for at least 20 minutes a day.
Exactly. And it's funny because since Saturday, I've been doing my runs first thing in the morning because it's been bloody freaking hot here. 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. For those of you in the States, times that by 2 and add 32. That's your temperature in Fahrenheit. And
there's a lot of humidity. There's a ton of humidity. So I was home last week, and it was so hot.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, my naturally curly hair that I beat into submission was not loving the high humidity.
Yeah. And that's why this morning I'm like, okay, before anything hits, and yes, it's officially my first day of vacation, I texted my girlfriend and I'm like, let's go down to the riverfront for 6:30. She goes, can we make it 7? I'm like, absolutely. So there we are, because it's something that I enjoy doing. It's that time away, and the water is soothing for me anyways. Yeah. And that's my happy place. And that end, there is a little park in Tecumseh, not too far from where I live. And you go up on top of this hill. And when you're on top of this hill, you have the perfect view of Windsor that is absolutely stunning. And I've taken pictures up from there before. And when you're up there, you feel so free. And so I think maybe Wednesday I'll do that by myself, just for a meditation and a long time up on top of the hill. And because there's some things I got to work out before we go on family vacation.
You need to find that space. Exactly. You need to find that space and those moments within yourself. Push yourself, try new things, do the things. There's an author I love, Dave Hollis, and Dave talks, his former wife is Rachel Hollis, who wrote Girl Wash Your Face. But yeah. Dave has this phrase of about safe harbors, and that, I could stay in safe harbor, but that's not what ships are built for. So push yourself a bit. Find those meditation points. I remember being on a resort a couple of years ago in Mexico and doing yoga in this gazebo on the ocean. And I was just like, this was the most magical moment. And so whenever I'm like, okay, what do? I throw on the white noise machine, on my, I call it the gurgle, because otherwise it'll, start to talk to me. But like, hey, gurgle, throw on the ocean sounds.
Yeah.
And find those moments. And for me, the other thing I do is I sometimes have to post that I worked out, not because I want to be that person, but it reminds me to do it, and it keeps me accountable. And so if you don't see me posting at the gym for a few weeks or months, it's because I haven't got my butt down there, but also to give myself the grace that I go back. And pick yourself up from not doing some of those things. And it's hard. It's like, look, we all have 24 hours, and I'd much rather, snuggle up and watch crappy TV than solve the world's problems. But that's what, and by the world, I mean, sometimes it is big things, but also sometimes it's just my own world of my parents dying, or my one brother who lives just outside of New Orleans, and worrying about, how that's going to unfold. Like, we can get caught up in that, the shit stack you talked about earlier. So it's finding your way through that.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we had talked about, finding your community and those people that are going to support you and be in your corner no matter what. That is definitely key, I believe, in getting past these moments. And I will be praying for your brother that you hear from him very soon, because I imagine as a sister that's hard to be waiting.
I'm certain it's fine. It's just that they've had power outages, and you know what, I will always let them, figure their stuff out. But yeah, you have those moments of, oh my God, could I just hear something from you? I like the marked safe on Facebook.
Right.
That would be lovely. But you find those things. But speaking of your community, you can also create your own community, and you don't wait for others, because everybody's waiting for others.
That's right.
If there's somebody you're seeing on social media or whatever, and you think they're kind of rad or kind of interesting, start to follow them, like their posts. Hey, that's pretty cool. How did you do that? Like, just start those conversations. You will be amazed at how that will work.
Yeah.
The thing I will also say is, be a cheerleader for other people. Like, if you want people to cheer you on, that's great. But part of that is in creating your community, cheering others on. Somebody's, like I said, somebody's doing something cool, like their post, like what they're doing. Talk to them, ask them how they got there. And just finding those moments, even whether you know them or not, but in particular, the people that you know, or you might know are kind of struggling, be that cheerleader for them, applaud them. There are people that, whatever happened in their lives, like we all deserve that chance, that applause, that community. And I think that's really important. And I will always be that person as much as I possibly can to cheerlead others on, because I think we all know how hard it is to be alone.
Yeah.
And not thinking that you are lovable, or that, maybe you're just way out on this limb. So support them. But whether they're part of, I'm not saying go outside of your value system to support people, but also recognize where people are in their lives. There's this meme that's out there. I don't know if you've ever seen it. And it was, we should support these two amazing women. One had a bride to be sash on. The other woman had entrepreneur to be on her sash. Yeah. Both doing awesome things. Like, wherever people are at in their life, it's not for you to judge them. It's for you to love on them and support them and help them through. That's the kind of community I try to bring together.
You should always straighten another woman's crown. Always.
100%.
Always straighten the other woman's crown. And I believe that by taking the spotlight off you and shining it on them, it does something for you in the process. It helps you to get out of your head, out of your shit, and focus on somebody else for a change, while doing good for somebody else. And you're going to get that back 100-fold. Not that that's why you do it, but it will come back to you. People are going to notice you, and people are going to come back and say, hey, who is this Kim Wright person that keeps saying this woman's amazing over here, and saying positive stuff about her and things like that. And by lifting other people up, it lifts you up.
Look, I have been so blessed in my life in that I've had people around me who have helped me, who have supported me, who have said, here's the history of why that person hates that person. And then you got to figure out your own version of that. But like, what's the story? Why do people do the things they do? What motivates them? I have been so blessed in that I've had people who have supported me, who have taken me places, who've shown me the way, who have, made sure I had a cup of coffee when times were tough. So be that person as much as you possibly can. And I will say this, people often say in politics, oh, somebody, got you that job, or even in life, right? People will say, oh, you only got that because you know this person, or you did this thing, or you went to this place. At the end of the day, a friend of mine said, all I can do is sometimes help open a door, but it's still up to you to walk through it.
Yep.
And we as women in particular need to help other women other people open up those doors. It's up to them to walk through, but you're damn sure I'm going to open up those doors and help people walk through and cheerlead them all the way through.
Exactly. And that is what makes you so successful, because that's what you do. You know, and okay, so I have to ask the burning question.
Ask the questions. I'm all for it. I'm here. Ask every question you want to ask.
I have to ask, what made you get into politics?
So it's funny. I got into politics. I kind of floated around it a little bit, but ultimately I've always wanted to help people. And I, talked to some folks and got involved a little bit. And then what really put the burners on, not just get a little bit involved, but put the burners on. One of my very good friends, Liz Tatro, we went to school with her. She was killed in a car crash. She was, a teenage girl, decided to stay. She actually decided to stay the night where she was because there was a snowstorm and she didn't want to get into an accident. So she stayed the night, came back, hit black ice, and she was killed. Devastated me. But I had become involved in politics with her and her family, and went to some things. People listened to my opinions, and that's kind of fun, kind of cool. Started to think about things beyond my own personal view, but what I do and what people around me do that will impact the world. Mm-hmm. And when Liz died, I wasn't sure what to do, right? It's kind of you're a teenager and your very good friend dies and you're just mad at everybody and everything. And a mutual friend of ours, she of Liz and I, came to me and said, "Hey, we would have had Liz working on the campaign. Do you want to come and help out?" And I did, and I loved it, and it became one of those moments. This moment in time where you just find your way in your calling. Mm-hmm. I was lucky. I found lucky, or whatever it happened to be. I was a young teenager, and I found what ended up being my passion and my calling. How can I help people? How can I serve my community? How can I make things better for people who have struggled far too much? Mm-hmm. I always say everyone in politics should spend a week working in a constituency office. You will find out how much what a government does or does not do will impact people's everyday lives. Mm-hmm. And so my life and my career have been always around that politics. I keep going out and they keep bringing me back in. But today in my career is help develop housing policies and transportation policies. And, I as I say to my lawyer friends, they all defend the laws. I write the laws. And that sounds a little much.
But I think you and I should get together and write a law.
But it's what we get to do to help change things. How can processes be better? How our playgrounds be built to be better? And so I've gotten to be able to do that. And I've met some extraordinary people who've done some extraordinary things to help, whether it's been on childcare or the environment or you name it. And I've got these amazing experiences. So I take that responsibility as how do I help build community and communities? And so that's where that's the long-winded answer. But again, through hard times, I saw how much my mom as a single mom struggled. I saw so many people who struggled with various things. I saw, people who worked in factories, getting sick because the health and safety regulations weren't there, and they got really sick and by things that they should never have gotten, but they worked in a furnace factory. And so how do we fix those things? So that's kind of the long-winded answer of how did I get into politics, but more specifically how I stayed in politics, because I wanted to help people.
Right. And okay, so something that popped out of that what you just said, like, it was like a flag. So you got into politics because of tragedy, and your life has been one tragedy after another, and you have kept going no matter what to help other people. So if you are in the middle of a tragedy, people, it is because you are to help other people. You are to go get through this. When you're going through hell, keep walking until you get out of it. Keep walking, because there is somebody out there watching right now that is going through the biggest shitstorm of their life. And I keep going back to that, but that's all I can call it. You're walking through the biggest shitstorm of your life. You don't know what your next step is, but Kim and I are here to tell you, just keep walking one foot in front of the other. Reach out to your community, reach out to one of us. I posted on the show notes, Kim's social media, and you have my social media. Reach out to one of us, because we have been through pretty much every shitstorm known to man. And if we can help you, to come alongside you in any way possible, and whether that's through my show or that's Kim helping with politics in the amazing areas that she does. Kim, I would like to eradicate homelessness. You and I are going to have to talk about that, on how we can do this.
I spent a lot of time working on that issue. Like I one of my clients, and I'm incredibly proud of the work they do. They run a youth shelter, and it's specifically for 16 to 24-year-olds. These are people who, whatever their home situation was, needed a different place. And the folks at Youth Without Shelter run an emergency shelter system, but also a stay in school program. People have to stop thinking of people who are homeless as some sort of lesser than. Mm-hmm. These are people that hit a certain situation, whether it's mental health, whether it's abuse, whether it's neglect, all of those types of things. And frankly, but for the grace of God, so many of us have not been in those situations. But their pasts don't have to define them. What we need to have happen, however, is mental health supports, school supports. We also need for the broader population on housing to actually be built. Mm-hmm. I have a mug, people on my social media have seen it. It's called NIMBY Tears. And NIMBYs are not in my backyard. And you'll hear them and it'll be something like, I want to help the homeless. I want, their housing should be built. But does it have to be built right here? But, screw those people. My life's mission, I swear these days, is build as much as you can. We need to have proper housing. We need supportive housing. We need to have those places in place for people who are fleeing domestic violence. We need to have these safe spaces. And if you think that, if people think that mental health or even substance abuse is a poor person problem and housing is a poor person problem, it is not. We are all moments away from being living in our own encampments. So how do we get better? And that really has become so clear as a mission for me, especially during this pandemic. And I may have lost some friends over it. I'm okay with that. At the end of the day, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to help build a community.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And, it's funny because right now we have a feud here in Windsor between the mayor's office and the Windsor downtown mission because of where the new mission should be, how it should be built. The mayor wants one thing. The operations manager wants something different. Both have great ideas. Why don't you put your fighting dukes down? Yeah. Get together, people. It's not about you. It's about these people that are living on the streets, living in their cars, lost their jobs, lost their businesses because of COVID. They're living in their freaking car at the Walmart parking lot until Walmart kicks them out because they don't want them poaching on their property. And here we have youth running the streets all night long. And if we could just put our freaking heads together and put our money together and help the people instead of making it about who's right or who's wrong, we would have these people in homes. And yes, with the cost of living so I have to say, on the government website, it says the cost of inflation is 1%. You tell me where it's only 1% that our costs have gone up. Seriously, that is a freaking joke. And at least a loaf of bread that was $1.99, which is now $3.50 in this freaking pandemic, you can't tell me that's a 1% increase. So that needs to be changed too on the government website.
You're not wrong about this. And that's why people get really frustrated about politics. They think, oh, it's somebody's doing something shady and that's why things aren't. Sometimes it's ego. Sometimes it isn't somebody. Like a lot of times in my job, it is to get those disparate groups together and say, okay, how do we actually come together on this? Yeah. It's hard. It's hard work. Look, have you ever had to, pull, two, 7-year-old kids apart that are fighting over a toy? I mean, I have siblings, so I was that kid who was in the middle of getting pulled apart. Yeah. But you're having to pull together those egos and those hurt feelings and those, who's going to own it, who's going to operate it. There's a checklist of things. Yeah. Who's going to go take the political hit to tell those people in that area that they're going to get a shelter? And eventually you just have to say it is worth it. And so I spend a lot of my time helping sort of facilitate those conversations. Yeah. We're not always there yet. And ultimately a lot of governments have to start unlocking land so that new places can be built. Governments need to start unlocking red tape so housing can actually be built fast.
And affordable.
And truly affordable. And, so I, when you look at the government websites and you see what is defined as affordable, who the hell can afford that? And so and this is a crisis not only in Ontario and in Canada. Your viewers in the States have the same issues and same challenges. There's a reason I belong to an organization called YIMBY, Yes in My Backyard. But ultimately, it boils down to housing supply. How do we build it? What do we need to build? And how fast can we do it? Because there is such a pent-up demand. And I watch these conversations with elected officials all across the country. And they trot out some statistics, but ultimately those are ways that they can kick that down the road. So if you're in a community, if you're watching this and you have a council that isn't always good about building housing, go talk to them. Tell them, you're there to help support them build housing. If you have, you want to get involved in campaigns, it really is a group of people that push, they knock on doors, they write letters, they have conversations. It does matter, those things that you do. It doesn't matter if you're the lone voice out there or you've got a group of, 3, 5, 10, 15. People will start to gravitate towards that conversation. But, get involved, have that conversation, make your voice heard. Because I'll tell you, the NIMBY assholes that are out there are very loud. And they bang on doors and they yell at people and they scare elected officials into doing the wrong thing. So you have to use that voice to push back on that.
All right. So there you have it, folks. This show has been truly enriched. If you missed the first part, go back and play the replay. Definitely, you can find us here on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on my YouTube channel, Unstoppable Overcomers. And I thank you all for joining us tonight. And I can't believe we're almost at the hour here. So thank you for coming on. Thank you, Kim, for being here. And is there any last minute things you'd like to say to our audience tonight?
You are not unlovable. At the end of the day, we all are loved, but if you can't see that, if you cannot love yourself, you can't motivate anybody else to love on you. Like that, you can try to replace that with everything else, every vice, every other person, but fundamentally, you need to find that love within yourself, and then you can build out the rest of it. But yeah, so break some crayons and make some pretty pictures.
I love that. I'm going to go break them all. With that, folks, have an amazing night. And next Monday, it is a holiday, and it's the first Monday that I will be missing because my family's on vacation and I decided I'm not bringing the laptop. So with that, there are always replays. All 24 shows will be up also on Anchor and Spotify, and definitely have a listen to that. Thanks, Christy. Dr. Christy Matusik is a holistic chiropractor from Illinois. She is, her kids, I think, have baseball tonight. So on and off. And thanks for joining us, Christy. With that, folks, have an amazing rest of your week, and God bless you all.